Home Show Garden Pros, helping to turn your thumb green.
All right, good afternoon, good day to you. This is another episode of Home Show Garden Pros, our live video-oriented gardening show here where we answer your gardening questions. Home Show Garden Pros is a radio show, not just this awesome version here, but a radio show on Sports Radio 610 every single Saturday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. And we answer gardening questions. We cover seasonal topics, and we were able to really do a great job of answering gardening questions because we have such a great group of experts on. And we get those from incredible destination garden centers all over the Houston area. Just to run through that phenomenal list of folks, you got Kingwood Garden Center and Warren Southern Gardens up in Kingwood. Two super cool spots up there, beautiful places, great garden centers with very knowledgeable staff. I guess that description pretty much fits every place I'm going to say right now. So, great gardening staff, incredible selection, beautiful spot. I just described Enchanted Gardens and Enchanted Forest down bookending Richmond, Texas, southwest of town. There's plants for all seasons up 249 just past Louetta. Beautiful spot. Great selection, great knowledgeable staff. Don't mean to be too repetitive, but they're all awesome. And then in Katy, Texas, you have Nelson Nursery and Water Gardens, another beautiful spot. Really a niche location that people all over our nation go to. I was in New Orleans and they were talking about Nelson Water Gardens there. And I was like, well, they have a really phenomenal nursery also. And they love talking plants. So they are our knowledge specialists for Home Show Garden Pros, do a great job answering gardening questions and giving great advice. So we just want to lift them up at all times. And I'm going to sneeze here, I think. So I don't know what we do when I'm sneeze time. But, oh, it passed. Okay, cool. So here on the kind of live version, the video version of the show, we like to lift up nonprofits that do gardening and gardening groups, maybe like yours. So if something you're interested in doing is being a guest on this show, just email me. You do that by going to homeshowgardenpros.com. The Ask a Pro button is there, and click that button and let me know your question. It could be a gardening question. Maybe you volunteering to be a guest on the show, and you want to give me some more information on that. But it's a great place to get your questions answered via text. Text like writing. You know what I mean? That's a great place to go. Our Facebook group is phenomenal here, this page. I get messages to my phone and can talk to you about some stuff. Do want to introduce our awesome guest from Urban Harvest, Carol Burton. Hey, Carol.
Hi, Danny. How are you? Thanks so much for having me.
Well, glad you're here. I'm better now that you were sharing the screen with me. So that's always so wonderful. So what you guys got going on these days at Urban Harvest?
We have so much going on at Urban Harvest and food access, and especially gardening, helping folks learn to garden. I have a brand new short edible guide to gardening on our webpage that is available now, and it is free. It's a 5-part video series that folks can go to our website to download and sign up for a short guide to edible gardens. So it takes you from ground zero in the top 5 tips.
Well, that is awesome. That's really great. And, people are hungry for gardening advice. Here at the show, we've really kind of done a lot of thinking about beginner gardeners. And, 20 million people signed up in America to become new gardeners this year. They didn't, sign up. They started gardening. But 4 million of them stopped. And so if you're one of those 4 million, we're here to say we're here to help. We encourage you to try it. It's so rewarding in so many ways. And so one of the big ways we want to help is answering your gardening questions. And so Carol and I are going to do that. Carol, you ready to go with question number 1?
Oh, I'm ready. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Well, this one is going to be from our email questions. We are going to answer your questions that you've put in the message box there because that's what we do. And so the first question, though, is from Vanessa. Vanessa says, help! I'm stressing. I installed a new raised bed and filled it with raised bed soil and compost, which sounds like the right thing to do. Primarily compost. Then I remembered last year I had such poor harvest using the same dirt compost. IDKY, that stands for I don't know. I don't know why. I just remembered that now. Thoughts? Was last year a fluke? Is almost pure compost okay, or do I need to add something? So I'll let you chime in on this. I did follow up with Vanessa, and she bought all her compost from Home Depot. And so not generally the place we want to buy our soil And so I'd love to hear your kind of education for Vanessa.
Yes. So, source of where your compost was made is extremely critical because in the landscaping industry and soil yards, practices are different and vary from soil yard to soil yard. So the compost may have been too hot. It may have already composted out and started a different process in the bag, being in a sealed bag. We don't know for how long. So we always recommend local soil yards who are practicing just like best organic practices for the best products. And I'll throw those names out there because we love them so much because they're working so hard to provide compost for the local area. And that is Farm Dirt Compost, Nature's Way Resources Compost, and also the Ground Up compost mixes. So those are excellent products because they're also aging them longer on the market. So you have nice, rich compost and not a bag of wood chips or not a bag of mystery fillers that may be in there. So I'll let you chime in, Danny, on anything else I may have covered. So that's my suggestion is maybe add some local compost because your mix may not be biologically active.
Right. And I, when I followed up with her via email, my recommendation was just top it all off with Nature's Way Resources compost. They're making such good compost. If you are looking to build from scratch in a bed, the Landscaper's Pride Garden Magic is phenomenal material for planting for beds. A while ago, when I was a younger man, much younger, starting off, there were fewer great composts than there are now. And so there's still a lot of bad ones, but the ones that Carol mentioned, and I'm going to throw Landscaper's Pride in there. My two favorites, Landscaper's Pride and Nature's Way Resources, really doing a great job making compost for veggie gardeners. And so don't give up hope, but do know that if you kind of choose to go cheap, a lot of times you don't really help yourself out. And so you want to buy, and Urban Harvest, all these great HomeShow co-op locations are really doing work in the gardens. They're seeing what actually works. And so when it comes to recommendations, you want to stay as local as you can because we're the ones who have to deal with the soil. So we're going to go, thank you for that input, Carol, great ones. We're going to go to a couple questions that we have here in the chat. And so one of them is from Becky Griffin, one of our favorite guests that comes on from the Houston gardening page on Facebook. She says, can you plant roses in the summer? So Carol, what's your take there?
Okay, so my take is this general advice. There are ideal times to plant and then less ideal times to plant. And summer is the least ideal time to plant a lot of things. And for roses, you want to prune, cut back, transplant, and plant ideally in February. Like on Valentine's Day is the target day of love. Roses, a symbol of love. During the summer, if that's the only time you can plant it, I would say plant it, but make sure you go back and daily give it a foliar feed, ocean harvest, full spectrum fish emulsion, and seaweed to help it deal with this stress of summer heat. So that's my advice.
And I think that's great gardening advice for a lot of plants in summer planting. Roses are really shown to be pretty hardy plants when it comes to the heat. They may not put on as many flowers and they may fade a little bit, but they generally survive and thrive in the summer more than a lot of other plants. So, but kind of the answer to the question is that important word, can you, it's like, can I? Well, yeah, you can. But, we want those things to thrive. And I think following that advice with foliar spraying is a great, great notion. We're going to stick with these chat questions for a little bit here. These message questions, the comment-oriented ones from Tim. Are there native hibiscus that will thrive in part shade? So native hibiscus in part shade.
Native hibiscus. Okay, there is my favorite star hibiscus.
Yes.
Which is an ephemeral rain garden plant. They don't mind getting their feet wet, so you can grow them in low-lying areas, and they really do like 6 to 8 hours of sunlight to get a lot of beautiful blooms. And I think I have seen them in some partial shade and still bloom, but mostly full sun. So that's I think they have a white one and also a red one. So it's more of a native hibiscus, and I think the name is something star.
No, Texas Star
That's
Hibiscus. Yeah.
Texas
It's
star,
a
yes.
beautiful plant that, when it comes to native hibiscus, a lot of times people call them mallow. There is actually one called the marshmallow, not a pun, not a joke. I'm fully serious. Do I look like I'm kidding? No, it's called marshmallow, but other mallows are great. And they're local kind of Texas native plants. And if you can find those, they will do some shade. Now, all hibiscus like a little bit of shade. They will appreciate the sun, and you may get some more flowers, but you usually get bigger flowers and a more impressive kind of shrub shape if they get, even if it's, 70% sun, something like that. But that Texas Star is a great one, Tim. Hope that helps out. Okay, we're going to go to our second email question, and then after that, we're going to get to another question. So the email question over here that we're going to look and get is from Brianne, and she asks, I'm going to attempt watermelon again this year. Any tips? I'm thinking of planting it today. So Carol, I know that veggies are really, your wheelhouse. And so what's your take on watermelons today?
Okay, so watermelons for Brianne. It's an excellent time to think about watermelons because right now out in the gardens, you can prep your soil this week, add your compost, 2 inches of compost, work that into the soil, or your full spectrum organic plant food, 1 cup every 4 square feet. Definitely prep your soil this week and then start planting away first thing April 1st. So all of April, you want to plant your watermelon and your cantaloupe to get the best harvest, and go with smaller producing varieties such as Sugar Baby or Moonbeam, the little softball size melons. The smaller melons will do very, very well and quicker days to harvest. It's the perfect time to plant watermelon in April. And we usually don't think about it until it's June, and it's actually late in the season.
That is one of the realities of gardening is we think about the plant that we want to eat. And so, we can't go back in time, but now is a great time to plant those watermelons. And what are some reasons that the smaller ones are better? Let's get some folks motivated.
So definitely our Gulf Coast weather, when we get a week of monsoon rains, that causes the fruit to swell too fast and to split. So when you grow the bigger icebox melons, they tend to grow too fast and split. And the other thing is that it also produces based on the number of hours of daylight. So that's why you really want it at the peak of production when we get to the peak of summer. Because if you wait until June, then they're really not producing. They wouldn't produce until the fall when the days are shorter. So, so that's one of the reasons why this is the ideal time to plant.
That is awesome. I think you just may have unlocked my struggles with watermelon. Is I'm either doing them way too early or I'm doing them too late. And so this is exciting stuff out here with Carol Burton from Urban Harvest. So get those watermelon seeds in now and, maybe the next week, whenever you have time, go ahead and do that and do the bowling ball sized ones, not the giant, huge ones. So they are just as sweet. So that's a cool thing to know. All right, here we go. Here's a question over from Jibble John. Jibble John says, hey, Danny, got any recommendations where I can get good compost in the Pearland Clear Lake area? Boy, do we. So I'm going to jump on this one. Friendswood Hardware is an incredible place, and they have a broad selection of excellent compost from great companies that we already mentioned. I know for sure they have the Nature's Way resources, and they have the Landscaper's Pride. So really great destination for native plants, for great veggie plants, for all your gardening needs, especially your soils and composts. So Friendswood Hardware. Any other great places down there, Carol, for you in your mind?
No, I actually was not familiar with any places in that area. And so I'm glad that you did a shout out to that place for all of our friends out in Clear Lake.
Yeah, it's a wonderful spot. The staff is passionate about gardening, so pretty cool stuff. I know that Sweet Organic Solutions is a company in Pearland too that sells a lot of great organic solutions. So another spot, but man, Friendswood Hardware is worth a trip. It's a cool spot. Cool spot. Okay, we're going to go to Nicole Smith's comment question here. And Nicole says, hey, Danny. Hey, Nicole. She says, when is it safe for me to plant tomato seedlings out in the garden? Do I wait until after Easter? She's in Cleveland, Texas. And so she's got her zip code there too. But Cleveland's up north, 59, before Livingston, but, still pretty close to town. So what's your take on planting tomato seedlings for Nicole?
Okay, Nicole, so you're just north of us, and basically in the downtown Houston area, actually the ideal time was February and beginning of March. So you're just right on target. It's actually this time to plant tomatoes in the ground. And you do want to protect them from wind and drop in a bottle, a gallon of water to keep them warm at night. And that way you will get the biggest plants and the best, highest production of flowers before temperatures get above 87. So once temperatures are above 85 for tomatoes, they're no longer setting fruit. So Cleveland is, just the next town over from Houston, the Houston region. And so it's about that time. It's like, don't wait too late after Easter. That's really a difference of 2 weeks, but tomatoes are heavy feeders and they're fast growers. And so you can take advantage of this 2-week window to get your plants even bigger. Again, with a little bit of protection and care, you can get your plants bigger for a bigger production in June.
What a fun reality. I mean, I think of being up north and starting tomatoes later is such like a cheat code because you can drive down to city proper and find gallon size or 3-gallon tomatoes and get really big ones and get them in and start getting tomatoes right away. And if your season's a little bit longer because you're an hour or so or no north, by all means do that. When I go up to visit my parents up in North Texas, I always take them late season tomatoes here, but they're huge, and that means they get a jump on their production up there. So maybe a little cheat code there for you, Nicole. So maybe that helps out. Great advice, as always, Carol. Thanks for dishing that out. Okay, we're going to jump over to our question number 3 from the emails. So here we go. Over to that one. This one's from Robin. So Robin's got a great question. Where can I find fruit trees? Well, fewer now since the freeze. So she's looking for mango, papaya, lychee, etc. So I guess she wants true tropicals. So any advice on where to get some true tropicals?
Well, I just took a visit recently to Quality Feed and Garden on North Main near downtown Houston, and they have a little greenhouse. And in their greenhouse, they do have an array of citrus that were protected from the freeze. And for tropicals, true tropicals, so they had some remnants of papaya. And mangoes are always really hard to find, as well as lychee. So in terms of the tropicals, they did have a wide array of citrus, the subtropical trees, but I didn't see any mango or lychee.
Well, here's what I would do is I know that there are local growers that specializes in these real tropicals. And so I might, head up to Enchanted Forest, wherever your closest place is, be at any of the Garden Pro locations and be like, hey, can y'all order me some real tropicals? Because if you want those 3 trees and more, they'll make a special order maybe for you. And so that's something for you to consider is if you're in Kingwood, head over to Warren Southern Gardens and be like, hey, look, I need to get 10 trees. I want these tropicals, and they can make an order for you. It may be hard to find them on the shelves. Right now, the market is, everybody seems to be pretty scared of, freeze sensitive plants. And so retail shops may be kind of trying to adjust to that sensitivity. So I would build a relationship with somebody and go ask them specifically for that stuff. That's my best advice for you. So that's my thought.
That's excellent advice.
Well, thanks. Gosh, it's like that old saying, praise from the praiseworthy. Get out of here, you. All right, next question. We're going to Shirley Miller Martin. So she's a Facebook question. So I didn't, expose her. Her name's right there. All right, well, her question is very exciting from Shirley. My key lime in a large pot is coming out after the freeze. Wow, that's awesome, man. Oh, that makes me feel happy. What should I do? So what should Shirley do with her key lime?
Okay, so coming out is I'm understanding that she's implying that it's starting to sprout out again, and so it didn't suffer too much damage. That there's still some life coming back, and that some sprouts are emerging, which is very good. And so I would use the Ocean Harvest Foliar Organic Plant Food Spray, And I would just like every day, just give it a little light mist and give it that extra boost to strengthen the plant. And it can come outside during the day and you can start to acclimate it to the sunlight, because I'm not sure if you still have it protected, because those are not freeze hardy at all. The first things to freeze. And so that's what I would do. I would go ahead and feed it to get it ready for spring, and that give it a boost.
And the Ocean Harvest is great. I've seen a couple places sold out of it. Super Seaweed by the same company is phenomenal. Obviously, I love the Rev. Dakota Rev is really great, and it's available all over the place now, especially a lot of these mom and pop growers that are really devoted to your success are going to carry these great products. And so I do want to caution coming out, hopefully it's above the graft line. But Carol, will you talk a little bit about what's happening if it's coming from beneath the graft line?
Correct. If it is coming from beneath the graft line and then the original rootstock is basically sprouting, usually the rootstock are heavy clay soil and it's a bit hardier. So if it's only below the graft line, then your original lime tree is no longer alive. It may still come back because we still have a couple more to see and wait for our fruit trees, because it could be months to really know how damaged they are and if they're still alive.
Gotcha. Yeah. So be aware of what that is, what the graft line is, and what it means if it's coming out from beneath or above it. Above is good. Above is real good. We're going to go to this question from William. Why do my cucumber blooms fall off and not produce? So great question, William. So I don't know. William, are you a beginner gardener? That's just a question I have for you. What's your thought on his cucumber blooms?
Let's see. So right now the soil is just starting to warm up so that we can direct sow and plant cucumber seeds in the ground. And so if your blooms are falling off, it could be a nutrient deficiency, or it could be also that there's not enough sunlight. So kind of check off those basics. Is it getting 6 to 8 hours of sunlight? And do you have deep, rich, sandy loam soil that was well composted and organic plant food? If that is all yes, and the blooms are still falling off, I would just kind of wonder about that mystery, and maybe a pinch of magnesium or Epsom salts would be the last thing that I would consider adding, or
Just
switch
a pinch,
variety.
though. Just a pinch.
Just a pinch.
Don't overdo it on that Epsom salt. Great stuff to add a little bit of magnesium. Now, folks, the squash, cucumber, watermelon blooms are going to fall off. You know, that's half of them are male flowers anyway, so half of them won't even make a fruit. So them falling off is not that big of a deal. If you can tell the difference between the air quotes male flower and air quotes female flower, because basically there's a tiny little version of the fruit between the stem and the flower on the ones that need to be pollinated. The other ones are for pollination. They pull that pollen out and get it into the other one. And so those ones without the little fruit are going to fall off. They don't do anything other than fall off unless you put them on your salads, which is totally acceptable. They are edible. But I'll just say the first maybe like 10% of all the flowers you're going to see are going to fall off. And so don't panic if that's happening at the beginning. One thing that Carol didn't mention that I want you guys to remember is that they've got to be pollinated. Those vines have to be pollinated by bees or you're not going to get fruit. So if that means you planting some flowers nearby, getting some of that pollinator bee, European bee attractant from Monterey Lawn and Garden, that's something maybe to do if you keep having that same problem after doing the soil remedies that Carol's talking about. So hope that helps. Hope that helps a lot. So we got
and Danny, we have starting next week, and I think that this week you have your series, your gardening, growing veggie series started this week.
Well, thanks for asking about it. We Oba did have a gardening for beginners series. Now we've already sold our tickets and already done sign up. If you become a member of Oba, you'll be able to see those videos. So Oba online, OHBA online.org. But I'm more interested to hear about your classes.
Oh, thanks, Danny. We do have also, starting next week, a 4-class series of basic organic gardening. So
Nice.
It's 4 classes, and registration is still up for that. And then later in April, we have an edible landscapes class by Angela Chandler.
I talk about Angela a lot because she kind of really taught me so much about growing fruit trees in Houston and using them in such a beautiful way. So that's awesome. What a great draw there. She's so great. She's just so nice. So we have another email question to get to. This is our last one of 4. We're going to go to that now. All right, from Jeffrey. Do I need to till my flower bed every year? I have read several articles about people moving away from that idea unless the soil is compacted. What say you?
Well, for me, Jeffrey, I do not till my flower bed every year. I try to use no-till methods where I am adding organic matter. I'm adding local native hardwood mulch to my flower beds so that is breaking down into wonderful structure of compost and natural humates, adding back to the soil so that I won't till it each time. I'm constantly building the soil with a no-till method of just lasagna layering, matter while I'm growing flowers. Because when I am growing flowers during the heat of the summer, I do try to build up the mulch just so that, like for zinnias, for instance, they get a little bit droopy when it gets super hot. And so I'll just go in and I'll add some extra mulch to help retain the moisture in the soil. So that is my gardening technique. So I don't have to till every year when I grow my flowers.
Nice. And tilling is a lot of work. I actually gave away my tiller, and I'm so happy with the amount of space it gave me in my little tool shed. So that was a nice thing for me. And now I have an excuse not to till. Plus, not great for the fungal life in the soil or the earthworms. So we don't really want earthworm smoothie in our garden. And so I'd stay away from tilling just for that reason alone. Okay, we got a question on the Home Show front. David says, hey, Home Show folks. Hey, David. And then he goes on to ask, I'm going to plant some peppers and maybe a few other vegetables. What's the best soil to start with? We answer this question and we love answering it. So best soil to start with, I got some favorites. They pretty much match Carol's favorites. So Carol, what are some of your favorites for soils?
Right, David. So I'm not sure what type of container or growing garden bed that you have. So I'm just going to answer some general questions, general guidelines. We do need 8 inches minimum of depth of sandy loam soil, which would be equal parts of sand, silt, clay, and organic matter. And so that's what you need. So if you have a container and you're going to buy some soil, I'll let Danny talk about some of the favorite products because he knows them all and perhaps even which part of town they're available. And so nice organic sandy loam soil, minimum 8 inches, and at least minimum a 3-gallon pot if you can bump it up to a 7-gallon pot or in your garden bed. Oh, just a pot or two and a trough. You see that in the comments now, Danny.
Nice. Yeah, I saw that too. That's great. So I'll
turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. The Nature's Way has a material called the Garden Soil Light, and it has expanded shale in it and a few other things to make it a little bit fluffier. And so in that trough, that's what I would go with because it won't compact very much. In the potting soil, that's where the Gardener's Magic, they have a potting mix that's phenomenal. I'm sorry, Landscaper's Pride makes the Gardening Magic. They also have a potting soil. So the bottom 3/4 of your pots, I'm filling that with their potting soil, and I'm topping it off with the Gardener's Magic. So easy to use bags. They're ubiquitous at all of our Garden Pro Co-op locations. And go to our website, homeshowgardenpros.com. You'll see us breaking down soils there and telling you the great places that you can find all these awesome products. homeshowgardenpros.com. So Carol and I have been answering gardening questions. The last one we answered from the email list was about, should I till my flowers? Well, you may not even to the point where you've got the flowers to plant. And so we got Michael Wagner from Warren Southern Gardens up there in Kingwood, beautiful spot, telling us some great spring flowers to plant. So we're going to head over to talk with Michael right now. We're going to encourage you guys to just be bold in your spring gardening. When it comes down to getting new flowers in, just go after it. Do some adventure. You don't have to do the normal pansies and petunias. Michael brought a bunch of cool spring flowers. What'd you bring us?
Well, first of all is a really unique geranium. It's called Vancouver Centennial. It's not a real bloomer, but it's a beautiful foliage
Gorgeous.
to put in with container plants. This is a new type of phlox that we have. It's
Oh, wow.
Intensia. Comes in about 4 or 5 different colors. It
Nice
seems
red.
to be performing well through the summer. Snow Princess Alyssum. This is a good perennial here. Very fragrant, easy to grow.
Bees love this.
We have the verbena. These are Lanai series.
Okay.
It's not a real spreader. It's more of a little bit of an upright grower, but it's great to have into your garden.
Look at that dark flower there. That's beautiful.
Chenille plant. This one right here is new. Crossandra Sundance, which is one of my favorites
That's
for
so
shade.
gorgeous. So dark.
Glossy foliage. The Sundance variety has been the best in our performance.
It's really beautiful.
This is a Bounce Impatient.
Oh,
new.
an impatient.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Had this now trialed it for 2 years. It does extremely well here. I've had them go from March until October and looked as good as when we planted them.
I love chenille. I love these plants. I love the way they grow sideways and make like a carpet. And I love the red flower on there. It's really cool.
If you'll notice, it's a newer variety. It's a little pink.
Okay,
it's
so it's a pink
much
chenille.
lighter. It's a pink chenille.
Oh, cool.
Right.
Well, this one's my favorite. What's your favorite?
This one, the Bounce.
Oh, gorgeous.
Impatiens are one of the most widely planted plants in America. And this outperforms it.
I know the leaves are so pretty.
Beautiful.
Well, thanks so much for showing these plants. So cool. So
Thank
fun.
you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Michael. Great thoughts there on plants. And, all of us have maybe some open spaces from the freeze where we had damaged plants. And I know I'm going to fill them up with bold annuals. So like the ones just mentioned there. You got any favorites, Carol, from the list Michael had for us?
Oh, I saw the Alyssum. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
And also the Dianthus. Those are some of my favorites.
Absolutely. Gorgeous plants, gorgeous color, and you get bees and butterflies in with those ones. So nice choices. Well, Carol, remind us of the class you got coming up next week and how people can sign up for it.
Yes, for the Basic Organic Garden Series 4 class, it's a 4 classes together as a package. You can go to www.urbanharvest.org that you see below me, and you can go to our education and classes page to see the full list of all of our classes, because we have some free webinars as well, such as plant propagation and climate change, just how growing food is dependent on our climate and how those two things are connected.
Awesome. Well, they sound fascinating, and I know I love all the offerings you all have, and just really appreciate what you do for the city and for education all over the place. So, great work. So, Carol is with Urban Harvest, and a big thank you for being on. We have our show this Saturday, HomeShow Garden Pros, 7 to 9 a.m. And this week we've got Joey from Enchanted Gardens on and Anita Nelson from Nelson Nursery and Water Garden. And it's very exciting. They do both a great job. So tune in this Saturday, 6:10 a.m. And we will answer more gardening questions because that's what we do. Signing off. Adios, amigos.